Michael Ammermuller, a multi-race winner, of course, in the Carrera Cup. No surprise there. Robert Lucas alongside. And then my tip for good things this year is last year's rookie champion, Larry ten Voorde, alongside me. Former Porsche Carrera Cup race winner back in the dim and distant days of the 50s and the 60s. How rude of me. Patrick Simon, welcome and thank you for being here.
Hi Dave, and yeah, great honor to commentate alongside the opening round of the Porsche Carrera Cup here at Oschersleben. Great field, packed, and a great atmosphere, and a starting grid again.
Michael Ammermuller and Robert Lucas then on row 1 of the grid. And then on row 2 of the grid, we'll find Larry ten Voorde and Dylan Pereira. From the next row, we'll find Henrik Skoog. And also alongside Henrik Skoog as Gustav Malja, another former single-seater racer that has found his way into the Carrera Cup. Jacob Eidson and Igor Valiko go from row 4 of the grid, and then it's Richard Heistand and Tony Wolff, P9 and P10. All the information at porsche.de/Carrera Cup. Glenn Van Paris and Marius Nacken are on the 6th row of the grid with Tim Zimmerman and Thomas Preining. Thomas Preining returning to the Carrera Cup. Jean-Baptiste Simonauer and Michael de Quesada going on row 8. Row 9 is Jean Schmidt-Stade and Lucas Oertel. And then on row 10 of the grid, we find Carlos Rivas and Stefan Rakoff, both drivers in the Carrera Cup last year. Matthias Jeserich and Soren Spring are on row 11 of the grid with Kim-Andre Hauschild and Chris Wright as we look there at Richard Wagner and Stefan Oschmann, who will occupy row 13 of the grid. Matthias Weyland and Tom Lautenschlager, row 14, P27, P28. Andreas Skapansky bringing up the rear, and we had 2 iterations, if you like, of the Lechner family on screen then, didn't we? Walter Lechner, the father, and of course the son as well, Patrick.
Walter Lechner Jr. So, long history in racing.
Yes.
The Lechner family, I also compete against them in Formula 4 times.
God.
That's really 50s and 60s. Cars coming back to the grid. It's a standstilling start like you usually know in Porsche Carrera Cup. So the cars have to line up and then wait for the lights countdown till 485 horsepower each car. Unleashed, isn't it? Yeah, it's a great stuff, and it's a change in the setup for Oschersleben. For all have been here last year.
Yes,
we're going for the fast chicane in turn 1.
Yes,
which makes it more racy, but hard to overtake during the race.
I think yes, and having watched all the races that I've watched here today, I think actually the change that's been made to that turn has made overtaking actually more difficult.
Yeah, exactly. 19 laps on the dash, and looking forward to what's coming up next here when all the 911s go for turn number 1 very fast.
So we stand by from the green flag at the marshal at the rear of the pack. He says that the grid formation is satisfactory and we are ready to go racing when the 5 lights go out. As Patrick Simon says, the power will be unleashed, and Michael Ammermuller immediately dives to the outside of the track, which will give him the perfect line into turn number 1. Larry ten Voorde already in trouble, and we've got Carlos Rivas and one other car involved in a skirmish at the back there. So they go through the faster iteration now of turn number 1. It's a lot of Porsche cars in the Carrera Cup for 2018. What a season it's going to be. And the season is underway. The one thing that probably doesn't surprise, from pole position, Michael Ammermuller converts that into the race lead.
And that very comfortable, so he knows all the right speed to go through the first corners, have the right temperature and the tires, while Carlos Rivas already parked the number 6 Porsche Carrera from Black Falcon Racing alongside the pit exit at start-finish end.
That must be the most frustrating thing in the world, Patrick, to see your race over before 1 lap has already been completed. Larry ten Voorde, of course, right at the start, lost out to a place, and so he finds himself in P4 rather than in P3. He was the rookie champion in the Carrera Cup last year. Michael Ammermuller leads from the number 68 car of Robert Lucas, the Force Racing car. Project 1, of course, well represented, as well as a number of other cars, and a couple have made contact there. And that is one of the Force Racing cars. That's Stefan Oschmann, and Stefan Oschmann then is out on the grass. Now, if he can get the car recovered from there, fine. If he can't, Patrick, that will be an inevitable safety car, won't it?
Yeah, we have to find out. Start-finish seems to be clear after this incident. We see Rivas go backwards into the pit area. There were another car involved. Maybe we find out that later. But we have to wait what's going on the back straight with the Stefan Oschmann car. Field so far is queued up behind Ammermüller and Lucas. Lucas a bit under pressure from the 28 from Dylan Pereira car, one of those Lechner cars. We see them in the beginning. Preining, we saw just shortly in the picture, is only on 14th position for the Porsche youngster.
We're looking back from the Robert Lucas car then, and safety car has been deployed, Patrick. So where that car was positioned quite close to the tarmac, the rules are now in motor racing following various incidents, which we don't want to go into here, that if a car is disabled virtually anywhere on the circuit, it's not so much the concern necessarily for the car or for the driver, but it is for the marshalling crew that have got, of course, recover that car as well.
Yeah, that's exactly the point, Dave, that you have to make sure the Oschmann car just recovered himself and is now in the middle of the pack, while we see Lukas Oertel rejoining the race, the number 3 car. You just pointed out, Dave, that it's important that we have all the marshals who support racing during the race weekends, and to make it as safe as possible for them. The safety car is necessarily if a car is stuck somewhere, and that's the way it goes.
The other car that was involved in that was the car of Matthias Wieland, the car collection Motorsport. And yes, I mean, we love motor racing, of course we do. And we want to see action, but we want everything to be absolutely safe as well. Safety car is now going to pick up, and thankfully this is going to be a very, very quick safety car phase, I suspect, as he picks up Michael Ammermüller. Now again, as a racing driver, Patrick, how frustrating is this? You've built yourself maybe 6 or 7 tenths of a margin, and all of a sudden it's gone, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's it's part of the game. You already know it. It makes no sense to really argue about that. We see the start and the replay from the back end. And we saw that incident between the Black Falcon car,
which was the Carlos Rivas car, wasn't it?
Maybe we can find out some more from this position. It was Rivas with a very good start.
Dived,
so
yes.
He drove in the middle, the silver and yellow striped car. And then there was a little touch. It's hard to find out from here.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not that you point on somebody. It's Oertel who's involved.
Yes,
the car
right.
we just seen coming out of the pit lane.
And I wonder, here, let's see if we can see it from the Jean Schmidt starter car. Or whether it was...
Yeah, start incident, normal, no? It happens.
Adrenaline pumping, Patrick.
Now, you know, if you catch a good start like Rivas did, while we see the other story on the back stretch, which was himself produced spin. If you have a good start like Rivas did, for sure you drive in the inside, and then it happens that 2-3 cars, you know, tighten up, and then it could be possible that you have a little slightly touch, which is enough to really spin out a car. But luckily, no hard impact. Now we're going for the restart. Safety car lights are already out, and Ammermüller is back on the pace. Green flag. Overtaking is possible again at start-finish. So maybe the chance for Robert Lucas to be in the tow, maybe to have a chance to catch up the reigning Porsche Super Cup champion Ammermüller on the restart.
I don't think so. I think Ammermüller's got it all completely under control, and as we go into turn number 1, I think I'm vindicated in my thought process. The reason is Ammermüller is so used to these cars, and Ammermüller, of course, knows the Oschersleben circuit very, very well. The one that was trying to have a go at Dylan Pereira was Larry ten Voorde, because Dylan Pereira ran just to the outside of the exit of turn 1, but it soon becomes the wrong line for turn number 2.
It's interesting to see how the cars in qualifying go very wide. In the race, you have to really defend your line and stay hard on the inside, not to give somebody else the chance to have a little look inside and start for the overtaking. Robert Lucas on board, while Ammermüller, you see, go wide, then go back into the corner for the acceleration. That's one of the characteristics of this racetrack. With the long corners you have to go through here for some parts.
It really is quite a technical circuit, Patrick, isn't it?
Absolutely, but also a little part of fast, you know, the triple left-hander and the end of start finish is now very fast. So it's a combination of technical long corners and very fast, where you also need some you know?
Yes. Well, Larry Ten Voorde then is the one that is chasing down at the moment, because Larry Ten Voorde lost out on a place right at the very, very start of the race. We're looking at the number 37 car of Igor Valilko, and there is Henrik Skoog in car number 20 then, and Henrik Skoog is running in P5 at the moment. We go on board with Henrik Skoog. It's great for the first time to have these live onboard pictures of the Carrera Cup cars. And there you can see, looking the most lively out of that pack of four, perhaps, is Larry Ten Voorde, who needs to get the job done because he'll have Henrik Skoog bouncing up and down on his gearbox very soon. Mikael Ammermuller looks completely under control. He's got sort of 5/10 over the P2 driver, Robert Lucas, at the moment. And Mikael Ammermuller, who, I have to be honest, I don't know Mikael personally, but he is a very, very focused and concentrated driver. Larry Ten Voorde we're on board with, fighting with that car now. Last year's rookie champion made his intentions known very early on this season that he's going to go for the main Drivers' Championship. And of course, as you mentioned, Patrick Simon, out of position, in my opinion, down there in P12, but having got made places up, is Thomas Preining, one of the Porsche juniors, of course, from last year. But this year, there's a big new Porsche talent pool where young drivers are being looked at.
Yeah, that's right. So you're always under pressure as Porsche Junior Special. Everybody's looking at you and you have to really deliver all the time. That's a bit of a problem. Thomas Preining was strong in the Formula 4 Championship sometimes. But what missed out is the consistency at his talent. And that's what you have to bring to the point for this season, to really focus, deliver all the time. When qualifying is, you have to deliver. A little outing for the 99 car for Chris Wright, and the MSG car, but can continue the race. So it's hard to find out what we saw on board before. That's, you see, no ABS.
Yeah, because these cars are very physical, aren't they, Patrick?
Exactly. So you really have to find...
that just snapped.
A little snap on the braking. It seems that it was a little downshift where the car, especially in the Porsche with the engine in the rear, when the downshift is not completely fine with the blip, which is all done automatically by the pedals now.
Yes.
But if there's a little struggle, the car, you saw a little dance and then you came out of rhythm, you know, you lost some weight in the front end, the grip on the braking is not that good, and easily you have a locking wheel, which sends you straight out, straight in the power direction, and but he was lucky to continue. Larry, we saw him on board before. It's important, you know, especially in the beginning of a restart, always when not everything is settled perfect, tire pressure-wise, tire temperature-wise, it's the best chance to gain position. Soon as everything is settled, you know, in this one-make racing series, they are so strong, the teams are so professional, the driver are so well prepared into a racing series by sim driving and stuff like that, that it's hard to get an advantage while the race is underway. Always use restarts, first moments, and this is where Larry lost his place also.
So this is where you need to seize the opportunities that you are gifted at that point. And actually what Patrick is saying is absolutely true, because the cars, the teams, the drivers, very, very evenly matched. The front four, though, to be fair, have broken away by about 2.5 seconds from Henrik Skoog. Henrik Skoog is not able to take the P5 battle to Larry Ten Voorde ahead. Larry Ten Voorde is P4. P3 is Dylan Pereira. P2 is Lucas, and Mikael Ammermuller, of course, is leading the race and looking very, very comfortable. Again, a former single-seater racer who has just found his home in Porsche one-mate racing and has been supremely successful. We should make mention of the fact that running in P3, Dylan Pereira is a rookie into the championship. So, you know, he's doing a very, very good job up against drivers that have had the experience of the car, have had the experience of the circuit, and know many of those foibles that you were just talking about, Patrick.
Absolutely. Mikael Ammermuller is just did the fastest lap overall. Important is for him, you know, for sure to be fast, to be clear that nobody else tried to push him, but not to overpace himself. Now, in case you have another safety car, you need again the tires to really drop away from Robert Lucas. Robert Lucas, also long-time Porsche Carrera Cup competitor. Yep. Sometimes the Super Cup, sometimes the Carrera Cup, sometimes both. But it's always the last step to the really mega outperformance was missing. But it's a strong start for him in the season with the second place in the moment here, which we are on board with a view to the back, to third position, the rookie Pereira in his car.
Absolutely. And it should be borne in mind that, of course, that as we look at Dylan Pereira and now Larry ten Voorde. Larry ten Voorde, of course, making his Porsche racing debut in the Porsche Sports Cup. So, you know, has elevated himself through the Sports Cup into the Carrera Cup as rookie last year. And it's only his second year in the Carrera Cup as a full campaign. Unlike Mikael Ammermuller, who seems to have been around forever and is performing very, very well. He's built the margin up to 8/10 between himself and Lucas. There's Richard Heistand then for MRS GT Racing in the number 70 car, currently running down there in P13. There you can see the car engineered by the Carsten Molitor organisation. Is that whether that was Thomas Breining running wide there? You see, and that's the consistency that you were saying that's so important, that Thomas just seemingly has not been able to deliver, and now is being pressured by another former single-seater star, Tim Zimmermann, of course. And Tim Zimmermann, very much a newcomer into the Porsche. Inside. And he's going to have him.
Yeah, inside. Now it's all about acceleration. Breining goes along with him outside for the next left-hander, which coming up. He has the better line, but he's out of rhythm. Breining is out of rhythm after 1, 2, 3 little mistakes. Now it's about Tim Zimmermann to go from the outside now. He just got back behind Breining's car. Zimmermann out of Formula 4 TCR, which he raced last year in a Volkswagen Golf. Now in the Porsche Carrera Cup. Quite good, but Breining is under pressure.
You're absolutely right. Breining is under pressure, and Breining needs to perform. Going through these, the number 27 card of Jean-Baptiste Simonau, another one of the Lechner Racing Porsche cars, where Ammermuller is leading now. He's increased his margin a little bit. And there we can see the BWT, that famous pink livery, which is adorning an awful lot of racing cars now on that Thomas Breining car number 10, which is running at the moment in position 11. Interesting and curious, and this is something that should also be borne in mind with the Carrera Cup. The curious way that points are scored in the Carrera Cup means that you really have to bank every single point that you can get, Patrick, because the margins between P1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to, you know, they're tiny, and you need every point right at the start of the season that you can bank.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we've seen in the past. You know, winning a Porsche Carrera Cup or Porsche Super Cup champion is all about making points in every single possibility you have. Ammermuller is cleared up by another 1.2 seconds now from Lucas and Pereira, which are packed up a little bit. Ten Voorde still same with the same rhythm behind, not really with a chance to bite back for his podium position. And then, as you already said, Dave, there's a little gap till 5th place scope. He's 4 seconds behind Ten Voorde in the moment.
As you say, every single little thing that you can find to give you just a slight advantage is what you need to find, as we're on board with Jean Schmidt Stade now, the Cito Pretiosa driver. Could just hear him using the gearbox, running in P17, of course, as Patrick indicated. Paddle shift on these cars now, ahead of Kim-Andre Hauschild then, who is running in P18. That's the number 12 car of Jean Schmidt Stade. We were on board with him. Good livery on that car. I like that a lot. And Jean Schmidt Stade then running in P17.
And he's also a very, very good historic racer. He has a nice collection of old cars, especially old LMP1 prototype cars.
Wow.
And he's really into... He's a real car maniac on a positive way.
Petrol head.
And it's good to see him racing here in the Porsche Carrera Cup. For sure, the new way racing cars are settled with pedal shift and stuff like that makes it easy for a good amateur to compete with really the bests in Porsche Carrera Cup. Matthias Jäserich, also a good guy from Porsche Sports Cup coming up. Not one of those guys who come out of the Formula racing career, the young guns. It's an experienced, it's a very good guy who's racing in a good rhythm now. This is back the pack for the 3rd position battle. Larry ten Voorde on board. We see Pereira and Robert Lucas in front, very tightening up together.
Okay, so Robert Lucas here is the cork in the bottle, and Robert Lucas is backing up Pereira into Larry ten Voorde. This is where Larry really needs to show his mettle and to take advantage of this, because it's allowing him into this potential podium battle. He's just got to find that little bit extra from somewhere to try and get onto terms with Pereira ahead and potentially also Robert Lucas as they throw the cars across the curves. It never ceases to amaze me in all the years that I've been involved in Carrera Cup that you actually almost have to wring the neck out of this car to get the very, very best out of it. It's a very physical, demanding car to drive, Patrick.
It's a Las Vegas style, all in.
Yeah.
Always have to go all in a Porsche Carrera Cup. René Rast was one of the first guys who really drives the shit out of those cars.
Forgive the language from Mr. Simon.
The way he blips down the car, revving the engine, used as an extra braking opportunity. That was where Carrera Cup starts to become really Las Vegas style. All in, all the time, every curb, every single situation. You have to really push for that. Even if it's just free practice, you have to push against your competitors to have the respect from all the others.
It's psychological, isn't it? And René Rast, of course, now DTM champion. I well remember much missed Sean Edwards in Porsche Carrera Cup. And we have a car off there. That's the number 99 car of Chris Wright, wasn't it? The point I was going to mention about the times I used to enjoy watching Sean race the most was often when perhaps right at the start he'd been turned around and got right to the back of the grid. He would then carve through the pack like a hot butter through knife. He was, I always felt he was an even better driver when the chips were against him.
It's like that. If you're a racer and then you have the chance to prove your style while overtaking, and there were a few out of Porsche Carrera Cup who really gain or who really create their profile. Philipp Eng last year in German GT Masters, he was one of the best overtakers in that racing series. And where he learned it? At Porsche Carrera and Porsche Super Cup.
Yeah.
Everybody has the same gun, and you have to be the quickest on the gun, you know?
And the thing is, the great thing is now, but you mentioned René Rast, you mentioned Philipp Eng, and there are loads of others that we can mention, even going back to the days of Nick Tandy and people like that. What's being recognised now is that the competing in championships as close and as tight as this, because that single-seater pyramid is so very narrow at the top, Patrick. Look at this, 3 abreast almost. This is going to end in tears for one of them. And regrettably, it ended in tears for Chris Wright, who just had really nowhere to go.
So he needs some sponsors to use all this airtime he has.
I was saying, because of the shortage of this, of the opportunities in this pyramid, you can have a very, very successful, lucrative and very positive career in motor racing. Doesn't have to be in single-seaters, does it?
Exactly. To just analyze shortly that situation, he was absolutely on the inside and no chance to really go for the car. There you see the experience which he's missing out. A little power oversteer for the number 4 car.
That's Spreng, isn't it? Who's just holding on to that opposite lock.
And this is the start of the situation. Then they go side by side through the chicane. And the end of that story we saw just by the braking and the spin for the 99 car.
Now, what we can see here is something that you said right at the start of the program, and that is Mikael Ammermuller is just delivering lap after lap after lap after lap of utter consistency. He's the only one that's, consistently taking time out, and you can see that margin now, and he's just doing that by doing everything absolutely right, Patrick.
Yeah, it's like a Swiss watch, the driving style he runs out here. Yes. Perfect. Not overshoot in the beginning, really give the tire the time to really come alive, to come to the perfect settings, and then just go through, lap by lap by lap without any single mistake. That's the experience Mikael has through all the years in Porsche Carrera and Porsche Super Cup, and it plays exactly in his cards.
The battle for second is 3 for P2 at the moment, but it doesn't look like Robert Lucas or Dylan Pereira are being pressured enough to make a mistake. And sometimes you have to try and provoke a mistake from the car ahead to give you that little opportunity. But that hasn't happened yet. If anything, the one that is suffering perhaps the most is Dylan Pereira, as Larry Ten Voorde is right on him. But to be fair to Larry, whatever he has tried to do, Dylan Pereira has not made a mistake. And Dylan Pereira is a rookie. And you can see Larry Ten Voorde there flashing his lights at Dylan Pereira ahead of him. And what you're trying to do is just garner his focus for a moment, aren't you? Just get him to take his eye off something.
Yeah, but in modern racing, like we have, flashing is part of the game, and nobody really takes care about that. No, normally, you can put this knob away. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe it's also that you, as a driver who starts to flash, needed a little bit to be faster. You know, to think when I'm pressing the flashlights, I have 5 extra horsepowers.
It's not a push to pass, is it?
Yeah, but it makes no sense. You know, there's no driver of those. You know, you are able to compete at the front end of Porsche Carrera Cup. You don't look into the mirror and get nervous by a flashing light.
No.
That's for sure. Armin Müller on his own.
Armin Müller on his own is just nailing every apex and just taking the maximum runoff that he needs to take, but keeping it all very, very tight and together. We're looking back from the onboard car of Michael Armin Müller, which sadly, because he's 2.1 seconds up the road, doesn't give us another car to look at behind him, because Robert Lucas is not able to get close enough. And the other thing is where you use your head in this racing is, of course, that during the course of the race, if you're going flat out in terms of chasing someone down and you're taking everything out of the tyres, that's going to leave you very vulnerable at the end of the race when tyre deg is going to be at its greatest. But if you're super smooth, you're not having to be aggressive, as Armin Müller is not having to be, then, of course, he is protecting the life of those tyres until the end of the race.
Yeah, for sure, and he's able to extend the life of his tyre and be able to push it out. We see Preining again.
He's having a go at Tony Wolff, isn't he?
Battling with Tony Wolff for 10th position. Tony Wolff in the 7th car. Yeah, that's... It will be a hard debrief for Preining, you know, finding out what went wrong in that race. Tony Wolff also second year Porsche Carrera Cup after Formula 4. He's one of the tallest guys in Formula 4. Always funny to watch him. You always can see his helmet in the whole grid because he was that tall. But I was in the same situation when I was young.
Because you are a big fella.
Racing Formula Opel at this time, Formula Opel Lotus. And really does not fit into a Formula 3 car. That's why I swapped to Porsche Carrera Cup, and gives me a good opportunity and race a lot of cool stuff during that time. And Tony is a little bit like that.
Yes.
Find a good way. Was strong last year in some parts as a rookie, and for the circumstances he go for his season and for his running with the car collection guys from Peter Schmidt, who's running the car collection team. Fantastic to see them.
So Preining then, continuing to pressure. We've got a car off there, I can see in the gravel just at the top of that shot as Thomas Preining continues to heap the pressure on Tony Wolff. But at the moment, Wolff is not yielding at all. Here comes Preining, just taking a dart to the inside, just a look. And there we can see again.
Oh, it's a 99 car, possibly.
And it's
a 27.
Jean-Baptiste Simonauer, and also involved in that was the Michael de Quesada star car, I think, and we could see there from on board the Jean Schmidt Starter car. So that the hotel on the left-hand side, and still Larry Tenvorder is virtually welded to the back of Dylan Pereira. And now you see you can just spot a little gap at the inside there, but it so quickly becomes the outside and no good to you.
And the problem is, in the moment he tried to go for the inside and it didn't happen, he always lost at the acceleration again, because he's so hard in the understeer that if he accelerates too early, he will miss the track limit at the exit. The time difference between Pereira on 3rd and Larry Tenvorder on 4th, for sure he was quicker the last 2 laps around, but it doesn't help him.
Doesn't put him in front, does it?
Exactly.
Doesn't put him in front.
And that's so difficult, especially with the chicane, with the fast chicane we run at end of start and finish. You know, you came up there with 5th gear, something like 220 on the dash, and there's a little braking, 1 gear down, and then you dive into the fast left-hander. So the braking distance is at least just 40 or 50 meters.
Yes.
The old chicane, where you come flat out and you go to 1st gear, left-hander, which was 60k on the dash.
It was almost a right angle, wasn't it, that turn?
Yeah, you have nearly 150 meters braking distance.
Yes.
There it was easily possible to brake 2-3 meters later, still managed to get the corner, but overtook the contenders.
Yes.
And that's what we miss now here in Oschersleben with the fast chicane. For sure, it's nice for the drivers on a single lap, but in the race, you really bite your steering wheel by getting aggressive, not to able to pass the guy in front of you.
I wasn't here for the ADAC testing earlier on in the year, but was that always part of the track plans, was to change that corner?
Yeah, it came out from last 2 years where the Formula 4 raced in summertime here together with TCR International,
Yes.
and they run the fast chicane. So somebody said, maybe we tried it also for GT Masters.
Right.
But maybe he did not think till the end.
Okay.
For sure, you know, we miss a bit the start crash situations, which could happen on the slow chicane. Always somebody spun out, stuff like that. But in the end, yeah, overtaking is part of the game.
Absolutely, and of course that is what we want to see. We're on board with Robert Lucas, looking back at the Dylan Pereira car, which is in that final podium place at the moment, the P3 place. Not been unsettled at all by Larry ten Voorde. There's just 3 minutes of the race remaining. I don't know where the time has gone quite. So on board with Larry ten Voorde, team Deutsche Post by Project One, the team that he made his debut in Carrera Cup with last year. The Netherlands-based driver Larry ten Voorde. Back once again on the gearbox of Dylan Pereira as they head down towards that new and arguably improved turn one. Not sure I would consider it an improvement, but there we are. I, of course, will always see it differently to those drivers that are out there having to propel these cars around this 3.696 kilometre circuit, which features some 14 turns, 7 left, 7 right-handers, and into one of the left-handers they go now. Hans-Bernd Kemps, the team principal of Project One, looks on, and as much as he looks on, it doesn't make any more opportunity available to Larry ten Voorde to try and find a way past Dylan Pereira, who I have to say, whilst I'm impressed with Dylan Pereira for being able to defend so stoically against Larry ten Voorde, he's certainly not been able to find a way past Robert Lucas either, and that just reinforces what you were saying about the fact that these one-make cars are so evenly matched. As there we can see Walter Lechner looking on, and Walter Lechner Jr. there to the very right-hand side of the picture. So, Mikael Ammermuller, 2.9 seconds to the good now, and he's built that over many laps. That hasn't just happened, which reinforces the pace that all these drivers are driving at, but Mikael Ammermuller certainly hasn't looked at all under threat or in trouble in any way. And as Patrick said some moments ago, you just watch Mikael at his craft and he does everything just right. It's what you would call, he delivers everything. Doesn't go over the limit, doesn't go under the limit. He just gets it nailed spot on every time.
Hans-Bert Kams, just saw him on the picture following Larry ten Voorde. After a little mistake in the triple left-hander, he's now make it possible to be back at the end of the tail of Pereira after 3/4 of a lap. So he's faster for sure. But as we already mentioned, it's so hard to get past here at Oschersleben. There was a little mistake from Lucas we just saw in the background. Now, but Abel, it's so difficult, so hard to overtake.
So we're on the final lap then, and the applause already, and there is an argument. Don't say it until it's won, and it isn't won yet. Is it, or have I missed something here?
No.
There is Mikael Ammermuller. He's not completed the race yet. Now, certainly you would say on the performance that he has delivered thus far during the race, unless something catastrophic goes wrong, the race is going to be his. But I just thought that was a bit fortuitous from Mr. Lechner.
This is very self-comfortable.
Yes, it is rather, yes.
from Walter.
I think he's right, but even so. So the incident between cars number 27 and 18 is under investigation. That's Michael de Quesada. Around the final turn now comes Mikael Ammermuller. First blood in the Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland Championship for 2018. Race 1 win goes to Mikael Ammermuller, who takes P1 by a margin of just under 2.5 seconds from Robert Lucas P2, Dylan Pereira P3, best of the rookies, and Larry ten Voorde P4. So there we have it then, the first race done and dusted. Of course, where we had a difference last year in the Carrera Cup was we had a 25-minute almost sprint race and a 35-minute longer race across the two races. This year, both races, same duration, 30 minutes. So another little point of difference. This a replay then of Tony Wolff and Thomas Preining.
Which we missed out at the end, but it's again Preining who's off.
Yeah. He's not had his start to the season has not been brilliant, has it?
Yep, that's right.
But
But other side around for Michael Ammermüller. Brilliant start into the season, pole position, start finish.
He is a very, very talented driver, isn't he? We've seen that on numerous occasions, and their confirmation of the result then. Ammermüller, Lucas Pereira, Ten Voorde, Skog, Eidsen, Igor Valoko, Gustav Malja, P8, another former single-seater starter of course. And then P9 is Marius Naken, and P10 Tony Wolff ahead of Thomas Preining, who takes P11. So we'll bring you the second page. Here it is. Thomas Preining then P11, as I mentioned. Tim Zimmerman P12. Glenn Van Paris P13. Richard Heistand 14. Jean-Baptiste Simonauer rounds out P15, and Jorn Schmidt starter P16 with Kim Andre Hauschild. Then it was Michael de Quesada, Matthias Jeserich, Tom Lautenschlager, and the rest of the order. And sadly, we lost a couple of drivers during the course of the race, and Carlos Rivas, of course, right at the very start. So the car's making their way back to Ward's Park Ferme. Super slow-mos now of our race winner. There are the celebrations then. And this super slow-mo as Michael Ammermüller takes the first checkered flag. I mean, you know him better than I do. He's a very unemotive person, is Michael. Always seems so very serious, Patrick. Don't see him smile very often. Yeah,
he's very focused, and but it's successful. That's important. Oh, that's important.
There's no question about his success. That cannot be questioned. And we will see him back on the top step of the podium yet again today. And I say yet again because probably lost count of how many times I've said that Michael Ammermüller is on the top step of the podium in my career.
Yeah, it feels like that he's in Carrera Cup since ages, you know?
Yeah. He's another driver that's actually very tall, isn't he? And I wonder if that... Do you think that ever hampered his single-seater career because of his height? Because everyone talks now, Patrick, about, you know, how tall you are. Obviously, that means you carry a little bit more weight, and everything is being so millimetrically analysed now, isn't it? But there is Michael Ammermüller, bespectacled Michael Ammermüller, congratulated by Walter Lechner and Walter Lechner Jr.
That's Robert Lechner.
Robert Lechner.
Robert is the oldest son. Walter Lechner Jr. is the younger son of Walter.
So Michael then being grabbed, ready for interviews, of course.
Nice to hear the German mechanics. Perfect job, Dylan.
Well. And there we are. The congratulations being offered all around. Drivers will be headed off to the podium. We've missed out on a couple of podiums today. I hope we'll have a chance to bring you this podium ahead of yet more racing action to come here at Oschersleben.
Robert Lucas.
Dylan Pereira there. It's seems to take, and it always confuses me here at Oschersleben. The podium is not a million miles away from the Park Ferme area, but you have to sort of go along the pit lane, through a garage, up some stairs, don't you? It just seems to take forever. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's mostly that the drivers, you know, first want to talk to the team, celebrate a little bit. Part is also we saw them all going onto the weight. They have to measure the weight for the technical scrutineering stuff. But for us, take a look to the podium, guys.
Yes, super slow-mos of the top three, and in third, as Patrick has said, is Dylan Pereira. P2, Robert Lucas. Sorry, mate. And the winner, Michael Ammermuller. So the cars, they're parked up. The drivers are making their way to the podium now.
Luckily, they're faster while driving.
See, now this is what I'm saying about Mikael. Yeah, he's always focused, isn't he? He's almost what we would say in English, dour, in terms of his look.
Yeah, you know,
someone like you
it's
positively radiates happiness all the time, Patrick.
Yeah, but the James Hunt times are over in racing.
Well, they...
Yeah, it's a lot like that. If you see how developed young drivers go to Formula 4, go to Porsche Carrera as rookies, you know, it's not like in the 50s and 60s where I was racing, where you know, there was no sim preparation. If you had the chance to test one day before the first race, you were a lucky guy.
Yeah.
And then you have to find out by doing mistakes and stuff like that. Before they now come to the first race, they have already done hundreds of thousand hours in simulations and stuff like that. And for sure, then you have to be focused. It's more like a business program now than being following you enthusiasm, driving cars and pleasure around with working on the cars, you know. It's changed a lot because it's so much money involved and stuff like that that you have to deliver straight from the first beginning on.
Yes, it has changed, and there are elements of the change which, of course, are for the better, and I'm sorry, as the old romanticist that I am, there are some elements that I'll take some convincing, to be honest. Burkhard Bechtel, then, who will be in charge of the podium ceremonies, getting everyone in order. Hopefully we can stay with it until the podium is done and dusted, but if time runs out on us, then inevitably we won't, but we will try. The drivers are ready. The trophy, I was going to say the trophy cabinet is ready, but the trophy table is ready. But here comes Michael Ammermuller then to head up to the top step of the podium.
Oh, that's emotional.
Yeah. So Robert Lucas to his left-hand side then, and Dylan Pereira to the right. National anthem.
Das gehört nicht mehr mit dazu. Das ist ein akustisches Warnsignal. Lieber Michael, darf ich dir gratulieren und darf Herrn Ulrich Kremer...
So anthem plays out then, and time for the trophy presentation as Ulrich Kramer then makes the trophy presentation to Michael Ammermuller. Of course, Dylan Pereira and Robert Lucas will be in receipt of theirs, but that's just about it from us. But before I go, be remiss of me not to say thanks very much to Patrick Simon alongside me.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
And we'll see you for race 2 in Carrera Cup tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
Lieber Walter, dein Trotz, deine Trophäe. So macht das ein Profi. Meine Herren, Champagner versinken. Der Walter hat irgendeinen die Flasche geklaut, aber ist egal. Lieber Walter, aufrichtigen Glückwunsch. Deine Jungs strahlen sich im Glanz des Fotos und ahlen sich im Genuss des Champagners. Auf geht's.